everybody! I don't think I could be more excited to be in the presence of one of my biggest idols, but also to have the opportunity to hear straight from the man what it's like to be in his skin. The artist today has played in the most iconic rock bands in history, such as Poison, Mr. Big, and the Winery Dogs, and that's just to mention a few. And he continues to create timeless art with his music. His latest album, 50 for 50, is the proof that his well of inspiration continues to be full and abundant. He is my absolutely favorite vocalist of all time, with the best vocal cords in the planet. And that only scratches the surface of his talents. Guitar player virtuoso with the most amazing taste for melodies. There is still to be born a better guitar player than him. That is right. Here with me, one of top world's best guitarists, musicians, the prolifically magnificent songwriter, incredibly accomplished, the remarkable singer with a stunning voice, the inspiring performer, my friend, the man, Brazilian's favorite rock star, the one and only Richie Kotzen! Woo!
Thank you very much. And I have to say that this seating arrangement is a little bit intimidating because I'm very low and you're very high. So let's see what happens.
Okay, hi. What's up, man?
Oh, what's going on?
How's quarantine?
It's cool. You know, something very interesting. At the beginning of the year, I had shows booked on, well, at that point it was 3 continents. It ended up being 4. I had United States tour, a Europe tour. There were dates in Japan, and they were working on something for South America, which would have been at the end of this year. And I remember saying to someone, "Oh my God, you know, I could really just use a year off from touring because for the last 10 years or more, I've been really, really touring a lot, and you know, I feel like I'm always. And the thing about it is, I'm always." It's not just the touring, it's the preparation to leave.
Yeah.
And so I had said that, and then before I knew it, there was this, you know, virus. And so in a weird way, I got what I wanted. I just didn't want the whole world to get fucked up, you know?
Ask for
so I feel guilty, you know? It's kind of...
It's your fault.
It's probably my fault somewhere along the line. But, no, I mean, it's been interesting. I can't believe that we are in September already.
I know.
And you know, the quarantine thing has gone through phases for me of like, oh shit, you know, you gotta stay home and wipe your groceries down. And then they said to wear a mask, and then they said don't wear a mask. And so for the first couple months, I kind of liked it. You know, I was kind of walking around in like a onesie, you know.
You guys were very isolated.
Yeah, and then after a while, I was like, oh fuck this! I'm going to a fucking restaurant. I don't give a shit if I get sick or not.
I just want to get out.
And you know, now anymore, I don't know. I just would like things to, you know, I want everybody to be safe and healthy. And you know, if I go anywhere, I wear the mask.
Yeah.
And I have the hand sanitizer in my car. Of course, one of my friends is like, you know, that does absolutely nothing. That can't help you in any way. I'm like, oh, whatever, man. Everyone's got a fucking theory.
Exactly.
You know, so in the end, I guess I try to look at the bright side, and it's, you know, I generally like to be left alone and left to my own devices and not fucked with. So this is a perfect opportunity, you know, to be like, oh, you know, I'd love to, but you know, COVID-19, I'm really taking it easy. So you know, trying to find some way to make sense of it, I suppose. But you know, thankfully, you know, all my loved ones are healthy.
Good, yeah.
You know,
and you keeping your circle pretty close,
I do.
Even when you do have your friends over.
Yeah, it's usually the same.
Right.
The same group of people.
The same bacterias.
Yeah.
But have you felt like pressured to create because now you're home and there's no excuse?
Well, you know, I just did put out an album with 50 songs on it.
Right, yeah, 50 for 50.
And then when I finished that, in my mind, I thought, okay, this is the last record I'm ever going to make. That's and me, no kidding. I thought, I'm not making records anymore. I had that thought. And now, well, there's 2 things. I have a new record that's actually finished that I'm waiting to figure out how and when it's going to be released, which is a project with a friend of mine. And so that probably won't it won't be released until the beginning of next year. So we'll see. But that it exists.
Right. See, it wasn't the last.
And then I just started writing again. So now I have these ideas, and I have one song that I'm in the middle of. But my attitude is very literally I'll come in my studio and I'll listen to what I'm doing, and I'll lay a tambourine track, and then I'll go outside and rake leaves for the rest of the day. And then the next day I'll come in and listen to the chorus and be, oh, that line should be doubled. So I'll do a double, and then I'll go, wash my truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm really working at a very comfortable pace. I don't have any sense of urgency about anything, which is actually a great feeling.
Yeah.
Because normally I'm known to have a lot of anxiety that comes, and I don't have any of that right now, which is really good.
Stuff out, gotta write, gotta record.
Yeah, so things are good. I
Not
can't
a lot
complain.
of pressure.
I don't feel any pressure whatsoever.
50-50 released a lot of that.
I think so.
pressure.
I think I got it out of my system.
So 50-50 was just a lot of your songs that you had in the hard drive, and you picked them.
A little bit more complex than that.
Tell us.
What it was is I'm always recording and I'm always writing. And so if you look at it from the outside, there's a weird illusion that I'm constantly putting a record out, because I average an album a year. But the reality is I have long periods of time where I don't pick up a guitar. I mean, months go by, and I'll pick it up to noodle while I watch a television program. But I have long periods of time of musical inactivity. And then I have concentrated times of, marathon work. And so what had happened was I had a group of songs that I liked that would have been an album. And I don't know, for argument's sake, let's say there were 12 songs. Maybe there was 13. And so I had them, and I was listening to them on the road. And when I was traveling, I had another hard drive that mirrored my big computer that has most of my stuff that I'm working on, and incomplete stuff. And I started going through this stuff. I'm like, I got a lot of things here that are really cool. I mean, these ideas have been in my head coming and going. Why don't I finish some of this stuff?
Yeah.
So while I was on the road, I started writing lyrics and kind of working on this material and archiving it. And before I knew it, I had a plan, including the songs that were done. I had 30 compositions that, okay, there's, a collection here that's worth finishing.
Right.
And then I thought to myself, man, what if you could get to 50 by the time it's your birthday? That would be kind of a neat trick.
Yeah.
To release 50 songs when you turn 50.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, I'm not asking anybody to listen to any of this shit, but it's just something for me, yeah. So, and my idea was I'm not going to say anything publicly about it until I know I have 50 songs that I actually like or love, because I don't want to put filler out. So I started working, and then eventually I was like, oh wow, I got 50 songs. And some of them were songs that I finished from the past, and many of them I would finish an old song from the past, and then suddenly I'd have a new idea for a brand new song. So then I'd come down here and work on that. I mean,
so it's a mix of both new and older.
And I have to say, I had the highest electric bill in my life, because we live in California and they penalize you for everything you do. And so it's interesting, because you would think you use the amount of electricity, you pay for the amount of electricity you use, but it doesn't work that way. You use an amount of electricity, and then if you go over that amount, even by a little bit, they hit you with a hard penalty.
Oh my God.
Right. And a lot of people probably don't realize that, but it's true. And so what happened to me was, it was the dead of summer, so for 3 months I was recording. And when I record, I leave all the audio equipment on at all times, because I never know when I'm going to come in here. It could be at any hour. And so, I mean, you see where I live. I'm not going to bother anybody if I record at 4 in the morning.
Right.
So I leave everything on. And believe it or not, the recording equipment doesn't really take that much electricity, but it does generate heat. So in order to keep things functioning, you have to have the room cool.
Right.
So I had to leave the air conditioning on, and I had to set a temperature. I had, at the height of making 50 for 50, I had a $1,300 electric bill 1 month.
Oh my God.
And so,
I can't even imagine that.
Right, that was the electric bill. Now, and I rationalized it by saying, well, my studio time would have been a hell of a lot higher than $1,300 a month, to record 50 songs.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
that was the worst of it. But everything else, it was pretty easy for me to deal with.
Wow. I love those songs. It's
Thanks.
a lot of songs.
Yeah.
So it took me, when they came out, I was listening with Julia in a car.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to at least half of it. And there's one song in there where you're laughing, which I think it's very cute. But I think
Well, I'm going to tell you that song. I know which one you're talking about because, all right, that was a demo, and I played it for Julia, my wife, and she said, whatever you do not release that song. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's ridiculous. Your voice, you sound ridiculous. I'm like, well, it's another character, I mean, everything can't be the same. And it's just how I heard it. She goes, it's just ridiculous. So in the end, I was doing these harmonies, and as I'm harmonizing, I hear her voice making fun, and I started laughing.
Yeah.
And I listened back, and you know what? I'm just going to leave that.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about.
That's
So
the
here's the
one.
funny thing. I sometimes ask people close to me their opinion, and there are two people. One of them was my father, and there's somebody else who was unexpected. I said, if you were going to put a video together for a song, what song would you pick? And my father and this other person were like, well, I think that song's so fast. I mean, I could really see. I'm like, oh my God, no, I can't do that. It's a career-ending video. I mean, the song is. Well, initially I didn't mean it to be a joke, but now when I listen back, I say it's kind of comical. It's kind of a comical song, but I have a broad. I'm not one-dimensional, so there's nothing wrong with it.
I don't think that you have to explain yourself to prove anything anymore.
Right.
So if that track made it, it's because you wanted it.
I like it. I just thought it was
In the end of the day,
interesting.
you want it in there.
Right.
So 50 for 50 was the Richie Kotzen album. But
It was, and it still is.
it still is, and
Yes.
it will always be.
Right.
But didn't you just release, because I saw it on Spotify in April, the Mother Hats Family Reunion?
That was re-released. That's a record
that's
from
a
1994.
re-release.
It's like a
badass.
remaster thing that they put out. And a lot of people have been complaining that that's not available, so now it is.
It is.
And the other thing that came out was the audio to the live concert in Japan, which is on YouTube, and people can watch that. They can also get it on DVD form. But I was getting a lot of people saying, "Hell, man, I'd love to just be able to listen to that in my house on Spotify or what have you." So that's out there too. So now I think pretty much everything is finally out on the streaming services. That's the way people listen to music. You hear a lot of artists get crazy over the streaming thing, and
We do, because I don't have a CD player in my
I threw
car.
I threw I don't mess with CDs at all. And I had bought a new car a while back, and it didn't even have a CD player. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of sending a message, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I had a collection of CDs. I still have some of them, not many, but some of them. But I had a huge box of CDs from back in the 90s. And it was in this, down at the bottom of the driveway, there's like this little barn. And I had the box in there, and I opened it, and I'm like, oh man, mice had been nesting in there. So I thought to myself, I can take this, I'll take it up to the house, I'll bring it into the garage, and I'll pull the CDs out one by one and clean them, and then I'll see what I want to keep, what I want to get rid of. So I start this process, and I get maybe 25 of them cleaned, and suddenly something happened. I had to move the box. And so I pick it up, and the whole bottom of the box breaks, and CDs fly everywhere, and all this nesting material flies, and I'm like, fuck this. I got a shovel, and I shoveled it into the back of my pickup truck, and I drove back down the driveway, and I threw all the CDs in the trash.
You just knew.
All of them.
Oh
I mean,
my
the
God.
classic, and I said, fuck it. If I need to hear this fucking song, I'll stream it,
You do.
And the other thing is, I listen to the same songs over and over again anyway. Like how many times can I listen to Talking Book by Stevie Wonder?
Yeah.
So anyway,
And these physical stuff, they take space.
I know. I really like the idea. Like I have a large footprint here of stuff, and sometimes it stresses me out.
Yeah.
When we had the Woolsey fire come through, I had to take inventory, and I had no idea how many guitars there are, here,
So many.
and amplifiers. Like an obscene amount of guitars. It's like, I don't play this stuff. I don't need it. I play the same 2 or 3 instruments. I have the luxury of picking up something for a unique sound here and there.
Right.
But there is something kind of weird about having too much stuff, and I really don't. I'm counting right now. There's 15 wah pedals over here.
I know. I was looking
10,
at
11,
you
12.
guys need any pedals because there's like a wall.
And that's like the half of it. These cabinets, it's like ridiculous.
And you don't use any of it.
And then the other thing that I struggle with is I could sell this stuff, but then if I start doing that, then people are going to start accusing me of Kotzen's going under. He's got to sell his guitar. So,
oh my God.
so I stay in this holding pattern of like.
You can anonymously sell it, I guess.
Yeah, but then I undercut myself because I think, the fact that I have it might add an extra $10.
Shit, I need some pedals.
Yeah.
Let me borrow this stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could play the guitar, maybe. But that fire was something scary. Weren't you thinking, oh my guitars? Which guitars did you
Okay,
take?
so we're talking about the Woolsey fire that ripped through the canyon. So where I live, I don't really want to give away exactly where I live, but I live in between Malibu and Agora, and it's a place called Cornell. So we're like, a 5-minute drive. Your feet are in the sand at the beach, which I love. And I used to live in the same house for 20 years, and I wanted to get away from people. So I moved out here, and I love it. But the only thing I was ever worried about was the risk of fire, because when you get out of the rainy season, things dry up really quickly. And so, don't you know it? I buy my house, and 2 years later, we have the biggest fire in the history of fires in Southern California, and the nuclear of the beginning of it was right across the way.
It was,
and it jumped the freeway and came ripping through our canyon all the way to the beach.
Yeah.
So for 2 days, I didn't know if I had the house or anything.
You weren't even here. Yeah.
And for a month, we couldn't live here because it burned all the power lines down.
Yeah. And the smell.
So it was a weird feeling because my only thought was that, if everything burnt to the ground, cross myself and knock on the wood floor, if the insurance performs, I can live with that. I can start over. And so then we got a message that somebody stayed in the canyon and took a photograph of our house and the neighbor's house. And they said, well, they're still standing. And so at that point, we're like, wow, okay. So we drove back here, and the main road was closed, and we knew a secret way to get into the canyon.
Okay.
Come up the driveway, and there's fires burning all over the driveway.
Oh my God.
So Julia, my wife, and I go out there with hose, hosing off, trying to put out these. Oh, yeah. But I mean, and then inside there was a haze. We had to have everything professionally cleaned, and it was, I mean, I don't complain about it because there's people in the canyon that lost everything. An elderly guy died back he's decided to stay and he didn't make it. So, I mean, it was pretty traumatic. And it's interesting. I was also in the 94 earthquake, which was the biggest earthquake in Los Angeles that I think it was the biggest earthquake in Los Angeles. And that was crazy. But the fire was way more traumatic.
And what came in your head and was like, I'm going to take my guitar, my dog.
Okay, so here's the thing.
And
here's what's funny. What came in my head is interesting. When all this started, it was about 5 o'clock, and I was in the garage, and I didn't have that desk, so I made a table to put my mixing board on, because I was redoing the studio setup.
Oh, yeah, you used to have a mixing board.
And so I'm out there working, and Julia was leaving to go somewhere, I think to meet you, because you guys had a gig somewhere.
Yeah.
And so she wasn't coming home that night. She was going to stay down where you live, or something to that effect. And the sky was kind of hazy. And she said, hey, be aware, there's a fire around here somewhere. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So she leaves. My neighbor, who I'm pretty close with, calls and says, hey, Kotzen, he said, you might want to pack a bag. There's a good chance we're going to get evacuated. I'm like, really? I said, what the hell am I going to take? It's exactly what I said. Because, well, he said, take your passport, take your insurance policy. If you have your hard drives with your ideas on, take those.
Yeah.
And so,
smart man.
So what I did was I finished building the table. I got it in this room. I hooked everything up. And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to pack something. So I put the hard drives in.
Good.
I put my trust and will. I put my computer. And I put my marriage certificate and a few other documents. And I had some cash at the time. I don't have any cash anymore, so don't come looking for it. And so and it was a little carry-on bag, so I had that set aside. And I was in here in the office working, and I had the windows open, and it was getting really hard to work. Smoke was coming in the house. So I got annoyed with this, and so I went outside, and there's a whole line of sprinklers across the back that go up. So I turned the sprinklers on because basically if you do that, the mist goes into the air and pulls the smoke down, and it stopped it from coming in the window. Okay. And so I did that, and then I had forgotten that they were on. So they ended up being on for almost an hour. So I'm like, oh, fuck, I wasted a lot of water here. And I was also doing stuff on the internet, and I was drinking tequila and beer, and so I was pretty buzzed.
You're not keeping it up.
Right. So I closed the windows, and I turned off the sprinklers, and I went to bed. And around 1 o'clock, my phone's ringing. I was smart enough to have my phone by the bed because I knew there was, fire around. And then my friend Brett had called and Julia called, and they were saying, you have to get out of there. The fire jumped the freeway, blah, blah, blah. So I go outside, and I look out, and the whole hillside is glowing orange.
What?
I'm like, oh, my God, this shit's for real.
I know.
So I grabbed that bag, no clothing, just whatever pajamas I had on. I grabbed the bag. Julia wanted her bass, so I took her bass. I didn't take a single guitar, and the dog, and I left, and I went to my friend's house. And my attitude was like, well, this is going to blow over, and I'll be back here tomorrow morning. Yeah. And it didn't work out that way.
Oh.
Yeah.
It took like a long time for you guys to
we tried to come back at one point, and then we got sick because of the fumes, and it was a real drag.
Aren't you just glad?
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I am.
Everything. Yeah. And your house was one of the only ones that stayed standing.
Yeah, that neighbor there lost a 5,000 square foot structure across the way. They had a massive old build. Like it really
just the street down
was
here
cool.
was fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was a horror show. Yeah.
Well.
80-foot flames.
So
I got a video. No, I didn't take any guitars.
You did not even the one?
I have a signature model with Fender, so if I ever get in a jam, I'll just pull one off the rack, sand the finish off, and I'll be right back to where I need to be.
Good. Wow. Well, talking about signature, changing the subject really quick. You just got a Fender bass signature.
Well, no.
What was that?
It's not a signature model. No, what happened was they offered to make me a guitar in the custom shop. Yeah. And I said, well, to be honest, I don't need any more guitars.
No, you don't.
But I do need a better bass.
Yeah. So
I sent them my specs for what would be my dream bass guitar, and they made it for me. So it showed up yesterday. Wow. I want to make a video and post it because it's one of the most amazing looking bass guitars I've ever seen.
It's all golden and white.
Yeah.
He just showed it to me, y'all. I got to see it first.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to the Winery Dogs, which is
the Winery
amazing.
Dog,
I love the Winery Dogs.
Yeah.
And Fire's my favorite song, by
the
way. And I don't care what anybody says to me, but I love that song because I love acoustic guitars. So you play a great acoustic guitar on that song.
Thanks.
And so it's Billy Sheen, Mike Portnoy, you, and you write the songs with the guys?
Yeah, well, we write together, and there are songs that I've written on my own that were adopted into Winery Dogs. So we collaborate. Initially on the first record, we got in a room and threw ideas around, and so we were just all sharing ideas. And then what happened was I took them and wrote melodies for myself to sing and words. And on that record, there was a song actually that Portnoy wrote some lyrics as well. And then there were a few songs that were already in development, one or two that were already written. I believe Damaged was already written and demoed actually in a whole other way, because at the time I was preparing to do what would have been my next solo album.
Okay.
And then I remember back then saying, it's weird how I say shit and it happens. I said to somebody, man, I'm getting tired of this. I wish I could join a band for a while. Really, have someone else do some of the work. And then suddenly there's the Winery Dogs.
What a mouth. Careful.
In general, we throw around our musical ideas, and then I take those ideas and develop them into complete compositions with lyrics and melodies. And
That's awesome.
well, we did 2 records,
Yeah.
and it's weird to think that it's been 7 years since.
It's been 7 years.
Yeah,
right?
it's been 5 years since the second record. So we allowed a long period of time to lapse,
To
but
release another- but are you
we
guys-
toured last year though.
You did.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
are you guys talking about a new tour? Or?
Well, at this point, it's good luck trying to do a tour. I don't really even know how that's going to happen.
You don't know when you can.
Yeah, it's very odd. I had, like I said earlier, at the end of it, it would have been 4 continents booked for the 50 for 50 record. And they took all of it down and they moved it. Now, they moved North America to January. Based on what I'm hearing, the plans of New York, I don't see how I'm going to be able to tour. And, part of that tour, there's 3 nights in New York City on that run.
Yeah, it's on your website.
And so the way they're talking about, what they're doing and the way they're opening, I don't think that's going to happen. So I would picture that North America tour getting moved yet again. The Europe tour that was supposed to happen in September got moved to April. I don't know if that's going to stick either. And the Japan dates, which probably will stick, got moved to May of 2021. Okay. So, if I was betting, I would imagine that would be the start of a tour cycle for me. And so here's the problem as it relates to the Winery Dogs. We'd all like to do something, but if you look at my dates came down, and the way they run the business has nothing to do with me, but rather than cancel everything, promoters like to postpone.
Yeah.
So they move it, right? So, I'm still supposed to play those shows, and I plan on playing them. Right. Well, the other guys, they have another band, and the same thing happened to them. So everything just got pushed, So there's really no telling. I gave up on trying to predict and make plans. I don't know.
I think once they give the okay, it's still going to take a while.
It's going to be a different.
Come out.
Yeah, and it's going to be a different. I was reading all kinds of wacky things where you got to realize this. Most of the time, artists get fucked, and and
most of the time.
Yeah, and so especially when it comes to touring, I mean, touring is just a never-ending. It's like whack-a-mole, you're out there and there's a new problem. Boom, that was another problem. Oh, the bus broke down. Oh, this promoter didn't like what you did something. And after a while, to me, the touring for me, I'm at that threshold where this is the way I can do it, and this is the way I'm willing to do it. Yeah. I'm talking about how it's been for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. If that algorithm were to change and it were to tilt in a different direction away from my favor. Not that it's in my favor, because it's still not in my favor.
It never will.
But if it tilts any more out of my favor, that's the end for me. I will never tour again. You know what I'm saying? And so I've already read things about how, some promoters want, because an artist works on guarantees, for example. Right. So you guarantee X number of dollars for me to come play your venue. Yeah. And we do our best to fill the venue, and hopefully everybody makes money. And, for the last couple of years, that's been the case. Mm-hmm. But some of these people are talking like they want the artist to be responsible if they don't sell out or if they don't. Oh, and at that point, that's when I retire. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't really think so. At that point, then, then the promoter can get on stage. Let him strap the guitar on and entertain and see who shows up.
And write the songs.
And write the songs, all that, I'm not trying to bash, in general, most people are good and most of them are good. Yeah. I'm just saying some things that I read that kind of got under my skin a little bit. And I'm thinking, well, if that's the plan, fuck you, I'll stay home.
Yeah, you can just do like the Beatles did. Just release a bunch of albums at home and never go tour again.
Or, I'll pursue something else. And the thing is like this, the way I look at this, I don't like the idea of being beholden to anything or anyone. I am fortunate and lucky that I created a scenario where I can do what it is that I do, the way that I do it, and I survive in a way that I'm comfortable. And I people can say lucky, this or that, but believe me, it's by fucking design. Yeah. From day one, I wanted to know in the studio, what is that? Why are you doing that? Because in my mind, I want to learn how to engineer my own music, and I want to learn how to produce myself. I want to learn how to just do it. If I have an idea, I want to create it. But, I think where it gets a little wacky is people think that musicians are held hostage to money. And, if you can find a way to separate that and understand that art is art. So if you're a creative person and you're doing your art form, then and you're releasing something that's pure to you and it's representing you and who you are and your vision, you've already won. That's the end of it. Yeah. Anything that happens beyond that is really out of your control. I can't control how many people are going to buy my record. Yeah. I can't control if I'm going to get panned, if people think I made a bad record even though I like it. Yeah. None of this stuff I can control. So I can make attempts to appeal to people. I can hope. I can, do my best and put on a show that is me at my best, and hopefully that leads to earning money. Yeah. And I'm thankfully, I'm 50. I've been doing this since I was 15. I've been making money at music, literally. Wow. So I'm thankful that went that way. Mm-hmm. But if the day comes where it's like, all right, Kotzen, in order for you to make money at music, you got to do this, do that, do this, do that. I'm out. Yeah. I'll make music and I'll play it for myself, or I'll play it for the people that want to hear it. Yeah. But I'll, if I have to, I'll get a job at Home Depot. I don't give a fuck. I'm not in this to impress anybody with my Porsche or my house. Right. So that's, and for me that's a healthy mindset, because then I know the minute I pick up the guitar to record something, it's something that's real and that's represent. Yeah, there's nothing to lose, really. No.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's my attitude.
Yeah. Because then it's super truthful. And you're like, well, I do this because I like that. Or you could be an actor. I've seen you acting.
I would love to. You're
really good too.
I'll tell you something funny about me and acting. When I was in my 20s, I've lived in Los Angeles since 1990, so I've been here a long time. But I was going to acting workshop, and I loved it. And we did improv, and one of the things that I really loved to do was the improv exercises, and they'd do all kinds of things, like they'd throw something on the floor, like, okay, I see a drumstick, and they would throw it on the floor, and I said, I can't believe you, and I'm pointing at this thing, so obviously, like, it's a used condom, and start riffing on that, like, you're cheating on me, I finally caught you, whatever. Right. But anyway, why I said used condom, that's terrible, dirty.
That's how your mind
That's how my mind works. But the point is I got really into this this acting workshop and doing scenes and doing the improv. And then the teacher was like, okay, you really need to get an agent because you're ready to go out for auditions. Yeah. And then I had this weird feeling. It's like, well, I've already had two major recording contracts that went sideways. I've been in a major rock band that sold millions of records that kind of went sideways. But I really know music and I really love music. Do I really want to start another career that's even more difficult, that even relies more on me trying to convince you of my worth? Right. No, I'm good enough. I can do this part. Love me, like me. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to go. Well. I'm not going to go drive around Culver City and then sit in a room with 15 guys that look like me to convince someone that I should be hired for the job. So, if a magic fairy came out of the sky and said, I want to put you in this movie, you'd be perfect for it, I know I could do it, and I know I would do it really well. I believe that. But yeah, I have a movie, but you can't even count it really. I have a tiny little scene in a movie that Halle Berry is in, and she actually, one part, is standing next to me and touches my arm, and I wasn't supposed to have any lines, but just reactionary. I said, "Oh wow!" It was a story about Frankie Lyman called "Why Do Fools Fall in Love," and it's kind of funny because I'm supposed to be Ray Davies from the Kinks, and so when I got on the set, I had long hair, and they said, "Well, we got to do something with your hair because you have to have like this kind of Beatle cut thing," And they said, well, you could do this and you could wear a wig. I said, you know what? I said, I was going to cut my hair anyway.
Yeah.
Just do whatever you got to do.
Oh, my God.
So I let the casting, or whatever, not the casting, the wardrobe people just cut my hair off.
How long was your hair?
It was like to here,
Okay.
shoulder length. And so they chopped it into this crazy beetle cut.
Yeah.
And so the week later, I was supposed to fly to New York because my friend has a band called Dog Star.
Mm-hmm.
And that band was performing on the Regis and Kathy Lee show in New York City.
Mm.
And then the band had a concert in a big venue in Manhattan.
Cool.
And I was going to sit in with them and everything. So they were coming in from Japan. And I came in from LA. And I had just gotten to the hotel. And I got out of the car. And they were getting out of their limousine. And the guys in the band are ignoring me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm supposed to play with these guys, and they're ignoring. And I said, hey, it's me, Richie. And oh my God, you cut your hair. I didn't recognize you,
Yeah.
So if you can see the haircut in the movie, but you can also go on YouTube if you Google Dog Star, Regis, and Kathy Lee. The song was called Corner Store.
Okay.
And so we performed this song,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah. But that was all that era of me getting my hair cut and
And
whatever.
being an actor.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you acting with that teeth. You have.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I have these fake teeth. I have a character called Kent Stanfield, and I've gotten thrown out of many places. I actually had 2 state Pennsylvania officers come to my uncle's house years ago because I created such a stir, and my uncle didn't know it was me, and he called 911, and then my mother suddenly said, no, that's Richie, and so he hung up the phone, but the call already went through.
Right.
So I'm in there eating a sandwich, and bang, 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 the cops are at the door. So I had to show them, no, it was a joke, and I put the teeth in, I do the character, But I have many stories, way too long for now.
You're so funny when you do.
Got thrown out of the baked potato twice with the teeth.
No.
Yeah. It's
Why?
crazy. I used to live by the baked potato, and I dressed up as this character, and they wouldn't let me in. God, it's such a long story. I might as well tell it.
Okay. Tell me.
So they had a jam night on Tuesdays, and I could walk down the hill and go to the
Yeah.
baked potato. So I didn't have any cash on hand, but I had a lot of coins. I had a $5 bill. That's what I had. There were coins in the house, but I had a $5 bill. So I get in character. I had this shirt that I used to stain my deck, so it was all screwed up. I had pants that I used to pour concrete to make steps. They were covered in concrete. Sneakers with concrete on them. I put the fake teeth in. I got this rainbow bar and grill hat that I used to wear, and I went in the fireplace, put some soot on my face to look really dirty, and coincidentally, I was doing construction, and I smelled bad. So I go down to the baked potato, and I go to go in, and the character talks very different than me, and I can't
Yeah.
use the voice without the teeth. So,
Right. Okay.
but anyway, I go down to go in, and the guy's like, "You can't come in. It's $10." So I said, "Look, I have $5. Can't you just let me come in? I'll use this to buy a beer."
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, it's $10." And so there's a band playing, and it's a celebrity band. And in character, I go, "Holy shit, is that Slash?" And I go to charge the stage, but I know that the door guy is going to push me back.
Right.
I know there's going to be natural resistance.
Yeah.
So I commit to this, and I charge, and the guy grabs me and pushes me. He says, "Hey, you can't do that. You got to pay the cover charge. It's $10. Either give me $10 or get out of here."
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh, fuck, I really wanted to go in this fucking place." So I go all the way back up the hill. I mean, this is a steep hill. I got to
It
walk up
is.
to my house. I get $5 in quarters. So now I got $5 in quarters, a $5 bill. I come all the way back down. I come, and it's a different guy at the door.
Aw.
And so it's good because
Oh.
it's not the guy that pushed me out.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's $10. I said, "Here's 5." I said, "Hold out your hand." He holds his hand. I dumped the quarters in his hand. And he's okay. It's $10. I go to go in, and the guy that threw me out's there.
Yeah.
And he said, "What the hell's going on?" I threw this guy out a minute ago. "Get the fuck out of here!" And he pushes me again, pushes me out on the street. And I said, "Hey, fuck you." I said, "That's discrimination. I paid the fucking cover. You got to let me in." And so he said, "You're not coming in here. I told you." And I said, "Then give me my money back."
Yeah.
So he gives me the money back. So I go around the back. At this point, the band's on break. I go around the back, and there's this back area by the parking lot, and I'm looking over this wall, and the drummer, who's the house drummer, comes over to me, And he's looking, and I have like fake glasses on. It's the whole character. And he's like, Richie? Richie, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. I said, shh. I said, I don't want anyone to know it's me. And he said, oh, dude, you're coming in right now. I said, listen, if they see me in there, they're going to kick my ass because they threw me out twice. He goes, no. He said, you're coming in now, and I'm going to escort you right on the stage, and you're starting the second set. Yeah. We're playing Red House. Now, I don't even really know how to play Red House, but I figure I can fake it, right? So I get on stage, and I start playing, and I'm totally like making these crazy faces. I mean, these teeth are gnarly, you know.
They are.
And so I do a solo. I swear to God, at the end of this solo, the place erupted in a response on that solo better than any applause I ever got at any Richie Kotzen show. I mean, even in Brazil, which is probably my largest market, I never had a response like that. And I'm like, I'm trying not to laugh. And I knew the solo was good, but it was because of the way I looked when I was doing the solo. And people were just like, my God, this is the greatest guitar player I've ever seen. And so, I mean, there was some kid there that looked like he just stepped out of, like, you know, a fashion show in West Hollywood. He comes over to me and says, my band just got signed to Interscope and I need a guitar player. And, you know, and like, I'd love you to. And so I'm like, and so finally I reveal that it's me to my friends. And, oh, my God. And the bar lady, she says, oh, my fucking God. She says, I told Justin, this guy's really good. Somehow he reminds me of an ugly Richie Kotzen. So that's my baked potato story.
The guys at the door.
Oh, they've got me, and I had the teeth in my hand, and this is the only thing I was very upset about this. They had outside, you know, they got me outside. We're joking. They're laughing. They said, you son of a bitch. And he smacked my hand, and the teeth flew out of my hand, and they cracked on the sidewalk.
Oh, no.
So that joke caused me to have to buy a new set of teeth.
And those teeth are amazing.
Well, you know something else that's interesting? I recently tried to buy a new set because my teeth have moved. I really need to invest in Invisalign now because what's happening is my real teeth are starting to become much like the fake teeth that I make fun of, which is kind of, you know, God having his way with me. But I tried to order a new set, and they won't ship them to California. Because the mold that you have to use to adhere them to your mouth, they claim is potentially hazardous.
Aww.
Yeah,
so where do you have? How do you?
Well, I'm going to have them sent to another state, and then have them, you know, have to go fetch them somehow. And maybe I'll send them to Nevada and then drive out and get them. Yeah.
So where? Just so we all know, and if we want to get those teeth, what's the name of the place?
There were two different ones. If I don't want to screw it up, but I think there was Billy Bob, and another one was Dr. Buck. There were different brands, and I kind of
tried them all.
Yeah, right.
It's ridiculous. So, you know.
But you know, it's not just the teeth. The whole face changes. My lower jaw changes. My eyes change. So you can't just put the teeth in and be a new person. You have to. The teeth have to change you, and it does. They change me. If I put them in right now, I would be a different person. The voice changes everything. And
your body changes.
Everything. The way I respond to everything. Yeah.
I've seen you with it, and it's fun. You had like a white 5-beater on, and you were hilarious in the lead. I don't even know what you were saying, but it was hilarious. So back to music because people want to know. I was looking through your stuff, and I didn't know you worked so close with Jason Becker.
Oh, yeah.
And that he produced or co-produced something for you.
Right. So my first album was much unlike anything that I've become known to be as an adult. I got signed to Shrapnel Records when I was, they put me in the magazine when I was 17. They had a spotlight for new talent. And Mike Varney would find guitar players, and if he liked you enough, he would sign you to a recording contract and make a record with you. So he signed me when I was 17, 18, just coming out of high school, and I made this record full of these crazy instrumental songs that I was writing as a teenager. And he wasn't going to be available to babysit me in the studio because I had no studio experience. Well, Jason Becker was quite a bit ahead of me and had already done 3 records. Even though we were
kind of the
same age, yeah. He's 6 months older than me.
Right.
So he said, look, I'm going to put you in with Jason. I'll stop in once in a while. So, Jason's going to co-produce the record with me. In reality, Jason really produced the day-to-day stuff. Mike Varney produced the songs to the degree of arrangements and stuff, but Jason and I were together every day.
Cool.
And so we became very close, and I learned a lot from him. I mean, I thought when I came out from Pennsylvania to San Francisco, I don't want to say I had an ego, but I had confidence in my guitar playing, and I thought, well, I can do anything any of these other guys can do. Mm-hmm. I'm just as good as any of these other guys that are signed to this label. Yeah. That was my mindset as a kid. So, and I was kind of psyching myself up because I didn't know what I was into. Then I go to Mike's house, and we're in his kitchen, in Mike Varney's kitchen in Marin County, and I'm noodling around the guitar, and Jason's being really polite. He's like, "Oh, wow, what technique is that? Wow, your left hand, you got a lot of legato technique. That's really cool." So he picks up the guitar and starts blazing these like 12-tone rows and sweeping our pitches, like stuff I had never seen before. Wow. And I'm like, oh, man. This is going to be a fucking nightmare. This guy is so far ahead of me. And so, it was really, in the end, it was really inspiring to be around him. And we became friends with a lot of crazy interactions being kids because there was no budget. So, and the studio, was all the way up in Katati. So, we had to drive late at night up and down the 101 from Marin up there. He had to drive all the way back to Richmond. So, there was a lot of driving, and so I didn't drive. Oh, I did drive in Pennsylvania, but I wasn't about to try and drive out here. So we're driving, and late one night, it was fucking late. We're tired, and no one's talking, and we're just in an endless freeway. And out of the blue, I went, "Chipe!"
Oh my God.
And the car swerved. I mean, we went sideways, and he's like 19, driving this big boat. It wasn't a Lincoln, but it might as well have been like one of those big old cars. And he started laughing uncontrollably. And he's like, "What the fuck just happened?" And he looks and goes, "What the fuck did you just say?" And I said, "I just screamed the word chipe, CHYPE." And he goes, "Why?" I said, I don't know. It just came over me. So during making the record, at various times, either one of us would chipe the other, and you would jump out of your fucking skin. The fun and games ended one day when I walked by and thought it would be funny to fart in his face. He didn't like that, so he threw chewing gum in my hair.
Oh my God!
Well, I turned into a lunatic, and I threw my guitar at him.
Oh my God!
And this is in the studio, and it turned into like mayhem.
Yeah. And
so in the end, there was a girl band recording called Phantom Blue, and they were down at the other studio. We were on this complex, this farm. So I go down there, and one of the girls got the gum out of my hair.
Oh my God!
And that,
out of your fucking hair.
And then Jason and I, made up. And another time, we were sharing a hotel room, and I guess I went in the shower first, and I didn't know. I didn't have any awareness of just social stuff. And apparently when I was showering, I guess I would spit on the bottom of the tub, and I never rinsed it, So I didn't know that I was doing this. So one time, Jason got in the shower first, and he might not remember this, but I remember it. And I walk in, and there's hockers all over the bottom of the tub.
Oh my God. And
I'm like, look. At first, I'm, what the fuck? What fucking happened? And then I realized, he's trying to get even with me because I must have been spitting in the shower. And now, so I rinsed out the shower. I cleaned everything out. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry about if I was, And he said, "Okay." He said, "Just wanted you to notice, whatever."
That's a good way.
We have a lot of, stories.
So you guys just pranking each other.
Oh, constantly. Constant pranks.
Are you in touch with him? Do you ever get in touch?
Yeah, we just did a what do they call that? A Zoom thing.
Yeah.
And we were all on there together. So, and whenever I'm up in the Oakland area, San Francisco, I try to stop in.
Oh, so he's still there?
Yeah.
No, I know you guys were tight like that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
To be young.
To be young. So that era, were you singing already on that time?
The
first album?
I sang in my little bands that I had back home, but not very well. Like there's a picture of me singing right there. And then there's another picture of me over here. See, I'm singing. See how little I am? I'm about 12 or 13.
Look at
And,
that.
and I'm singing, I think I'm singing a ZZ Top song.
Oh, wow. Good.
But, you know, and there was one song they used to let me do. I would sing American Band without the guitar, so I would be the front man. And you know, I try to pretend I was David Lee Roth. And so, but I didn't take it very seriously. But after making that first record, I very quickly realized that, you know, I don't have a passion for instrumental guitar music.
Right.
In the sense of what this, you know, in the hard rock metal sense of it, you know? And so I realized I need to, you know, I've always been in bands with singers, and I want to make, you know, music with singing. Yeah. So I started writing songs for what would have been my second record, and I started demoing them, and I had a couple friends that would sing on them for me. And the label head, Mike Varney, said, you know, if you're going to do this, he said, I think you should sing. He said, because, you know, it's just going to be another band with a hot guitar player. But if you can sing your own songs, I think that, you know, you really, it would be something different for me and my record label. I think that's really what he was thinking, because he didn't have anybody on the label that was young, that was writing the kind of songs I could write and that could sing. And so I said, okay, let me try it. And so he kind of directed me a little bit. And with his direction, I started really studying singers that I liked, like Paul Rodgers. The early Rod Stewart stuff. Every Picture Tells a Story, like that record I played over and over. That's where I kind of got my raspy tone from. David Coverdale, when he was with Glenn Hughes in Deep Purple, the Stormbringer record. I got real into that. A little bit of Steve Marriott. And so I would try to emulate those guys. Yeah. So those were the guys that I try to emulate. Paul Rodgers, David Coverdale, Rod Stewart, Prince. Glenn Hughes, Prince, and then I heard Terence Trent D'Arby, and then I was like, okay, that's the greatest singer I've ever heard in my life. So, I got that record, and this was after I made my second record, but I got that record, and then I tried to learn every single lick and every vocal placement, and I just
by yourself. Did you? Have
but I at that time I lived pretty isolated as well. I was out in the in a rural area of Pennsylvania, so you couldn't walk anywhere, you know, it's very up against the woods, you know, so all by myself. And what I did to develop my voice was I would record myself. And it's the same thing I did with my guitar playing. I remembered playing gigs live, hearing my guitar back, thinking, wow, I thought I was playing great, and I'm listening back, I sound out of tune, my vibrato sounds weird. What the fuck is going on? And this is as a very young kid. So then I started really looking at it, said, okay, well, what you're doing is you're resting your hand on the tailpiece is making the guitar go sharp. Okay, what you're doing here, you're too worried about how fast you're playing, and that when you slow down, your vibrato sounds horrendous. So I did the same approach I took with the guitar, I did with my voice. So I'd record myself and say, well, when I sing that line, I believe it. It's believable. You know, they talk about something with singers, it's believable, and it means something. And somebody that doesn't sing, it's almost impossible to explain what that means. But I got that concept at a young age, and I'm like, okay, I believe it. This other part, I don't believe you, Richie. It's not believable. It sounds like a person that doesn't know how to sing. And so I'd study it. Well, the way I pronounce that word sounds funky. The placement. So I went through all that shit as a teenager. Yeah. And then finally, almost immediately after that second record, I found my singing voice. So on the second record, I was still searching for placement, and I had a producer that was really helping me. He really wanted me to sound very airy, so I was really putting a lot of air in, but I was hurting myself, and so I had to figure that out. Right. But if you listen, there's a song called Dream of a New Day that's on that second record. 6 months after the fact, I got signed to Interscope off of that record. They bought my contract, so I got a major recording contract. I was 20 years old, and they said, we're going to put the song Dream of a New Day on the Bill and Ted Bogus Journey soundtrack, and along with Kiss and all these other big bands. So I said, well, this is really exciting. I said, please let me re-sing it.
Right.
Because I'm singing so much better now.
Yeah.
So we went back, and most of my evil doings happened in San Francisco back then. That's where my little crew was. So I went to Coast Recorders, and I took the masters in there with my buddy Steve Fontano, and we re-recorded the bass guitar. I think I added a few keyboards, and I re-sang the whole song. And that's when I really came into my own.
Awesome.
And so if people that are curious, they can listen to Dream of a New Day from the record, and then they go find the Bill and Ted soundtrack and listen to that version of Dream of a New Day, and you'll hear a radical difference in my singing over what was 6 months.
Wow.
And I just after that record, I just figured it out. What am I doing wrong? How do I want to sound like what I hear myself sound like in my head. How do I make that come out of my mouth?
Yeah. I can never. I always hear back to myself and I'm going,
But it's
ugh.
discipline. It's and that's the weird thing, I have that weird discipline, and it's like I'm relentless, and it works when you're trying to learn something, or a skill, or develop a craft. And the other side of it, in other elements of life, it can be a nightmare to live with someone like me. But when it comes to being productive and getting something done, it's the only way forward. You have to do the work. Not, people think somehow it just drops out of the sky, but
no, it doesn't. It's time. It's time.
It's time. It's hours and hours and hours.
Personal flavor, personal preferences on how you want to sing certain things. I like your ballads. Don't you have an album that's just ballads?
I think what I did years ago was I picked a bunch of ballads and put them on a disc and called it the Ballads Collection. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to have to do that because it's all ballads. Thank God for doing it.
But now you can make a playlist,
No, you can't. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So.
Besides the rock and roll, you also really love playing R&B and soul, and you have that stuff going too. And was that some of the Prince in you?
Well, Prince was certainly an influence. Especially the thing about Prince, I think that was the biggest influence in me, beyond his musical sound, which is so unique, but the concept of Prince, the idea that you can be one person and do your music and create it from zero. So the idea that you can lock me in a recording studio, and if I have my resources and an idea, I can come out and play through the speakers what I was hearing in my head.
Yeah.
And that was my goal all along. Even like the guitar is just a small piece of it.
Right.
I'm known as this guitar player, and I don't want to undermine that, but I am not like most of my guitar playing peers that are constantly searching on the instrument to, learn this or learn that. The instrument to me is a tool for making songs and music. And so you're talking about Prince, the biggest influence, and the thing that I loved and admired was his ability to be everything.
Yeah.
And so I at a very, very, very young age, the minute I realized that that's what was going on with his records, I became kind of obsessed with that. And I bought a drum set, and I bought a little 8-track, and I was like, okay, I really need to be able to make my own music without having to call an engineer, without having to hope that the drummer can come over. And I have ideas at 4 a.m. Right. No one's going to come to my house at 4 a.m. And if they do, they might be a little weird. I have to be afraid of them. So,
afraid.
Right. So, that was that influence. The first concert I saw was Stevie Wonder, and shortly after that, it was George Benson, and it was at the Valley Forge Music Fair. That's what they called it. And it was a 30-minute drive from my house, and the stage was round, and it turned in a circle, so I could see for it. And so that was a big influence. Darrell Hall grew up 8 miles down the road from me. Right. Although I never met him back then, I met him much later in life. But he was, a super high status, obviously around the world, but there as well. So he was a big influence on me, his style of singing and writing, and which also obviously came from R&B music. So then I listened to like Levi Stubbs from the Four Tops and Sam and Dave and Smokey Robinson and all those kinds of singers. But on the flip side, I was a little metalhead, and so I was obsessed with Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. So shortly after going to Stevie Wonder concert, Iron Maiden was performing in Allentown, Pennsylvania, 30 minutes the other direction from my house. And so I went to see that show, and every morning before school, I'd play Number of the Beast, Woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil sends the beast with wrath, for he knows the time is short. Let he who have understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number. Its number is 666. So every morning before school, I would play that, and it would echo through the house, and that was how I started my day.
I love that fucking album. It's great. Iron Maiden is huge in Brazil, so we've all love a little rock and roll there.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, man. I know I can keep you here and talk forever, but I just wanted to talk about one more thing, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
What's the goal these days? Like the main goal?
Well, maintenance is a very challenging goal. To not deteriorate.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, emotionally. It's really easy, especially with the quarantine. This quarantine 2020 COVID, it's been a very interesting thing, I'm sure, for everybody. But, quarantine, I'm not with everybody, so I have to talk about me. You go through these weird phases. I went through the phase of, wow, this is scary. Make sure we stock up on food, because you didn't know what was going on. Remember, everyone's taking toilet paper. And then it's like, oh, well, I have all my supplies. We're financially fortunate. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'll just enjoy Netflix. Yeah. And enjoy the fact that I don't have to be anywhere. So, like I said, I'm walking around with my pajamas, and it was a little chilly back then. So, there's that. And then, so you go through all these things, and then it's like, all right, well, now I feel like I'm wasting my life. I got to get a little productive. So then I start doing work around the house. Thankfully, Lowe's was still open, so I could get supplies. So, it's all this stuff. I think the goal is just, to maintenance and to be, happy in what you're doing. And it's easy to get the glass is half full, and then you get into this really weird, resentful, negative place that's completely counterproductive. I live my life in a very interesting way. People always talk about be in the moment, and of course there's truth to being in the moment, but it also is a thing that people like to say because they've read it in all the self-help books, be it Eckhart Tolle or Osho or whoever you like to read. So it's a fun thing to say, but if you truly only live in the moment, not much is going to happen. And so I have this tattoo, and this is in the moment, but one face is looking to the future at all times, and one face is always looking to the past. And the face that's looking to the past is to make sure that you've learned from the past, so that you don't, if there's mistakes that have been made, that you don't repeat them. And the future is to be aware of consequences that could happen if you do this and if you do that. Right. And, and then, of course, being present. So it's not just being present. It's all three things. So I guess I'm using the word when you said my goal is maintenance. I certainly don't want to go backwards. I don't want to become obsessed with what might or might not happen, because then you do have a problem. And I need to be aware of what's happening now around me, because I don't want to miss anything that's happening now. Yeah. So it's this kind of, maintaining this stability mentally and emotionally. And then all the other stuff, I think, comes to play, because when you have that kind of tranquil water, then you get ideas. And I don't know about you, I know you write, but I write a lot. And a lot of times, some of the ideas that evolve into the most exciting things for me are ideas that come to me in sleep, or more specifically, in that moment of sleep where you're just waking up. Mm-hmm. And so I've had this happen for my whole life, where I'm just waking up and I have something like, ooh, that's a great idea for a song, but I'm still kind of sleeping. And in the past, I've thought, well, you know what? I'm going to be up in a few hours. I'll remember it then. And I never remember it.
Yeah.
And so I forced myself up. And I have a lot of songs that I've written and put on albums that came that way. So that's kind of cool. I know I'm going off track or the question.
No off track. We're good.
But, you know, that would be my answer. You know, I I guess.
Surviving.
You know, hardcore goals, probably the biggest one. I've really strategically and aggressively been playing the lottery lately. And I really feel like I'm going to win. Now, so far, I've picked the wrong numbers.
The lottery, is that?
The lottery. You know, now the one I like is the Super Lotto Plus.
Okay.
And, you know, I don't want to win the whole thing because that's going to totally fuck me up. But I just want to get a couple of numbers,
Right.
you know, but
Just
that's my goal.
like a bonus.
Yeah, I think that would be exciting. Yeah.
That would be. Yeah. Man, I don't know what to ask you. There's like too many fucking questions here. I know you went to open for the Rolling Stones in Japan, and how fucking amazing is that?
Yeah, that's cool, but that's everybody knows that. That's old news. No, it was an honor and a privilege. And the only thing I can say is I didn't tell anybody I was doing it until after I played the first show. There was 5 or 6 shows. And I truly didn't believe it was going to happen. I really thought that I was going to get there, and there was a good chance that they were going to say, no, we're not having an opener, and that the promoter made a mistake. Well, no, you never know, because the Rolling Stones had never had an opening act in Japan. You know, in Japan, it's not common to have openers. When people buy a ticket, they buy a ticket to see, you know, if they're going to see Mr. Big, they buy a ticket for Mr. Big, you know, or whoever their favorite band is. But I did get to do that and open for the Stones, and I did not have a band at the time, so I put together a hot band, and I had Billy Sheehan come play bass with me, and Tal Bergman, who I've known since my early 20s, who's one of my favorite drummers on the planet. Definitely. He's truly a guy that can do anything. He came over with me, and we just played together recently back in February. But yeah, so I did do that, and that was exciting. It's a nice thing to see on my Wikipedia page.
And you met the band and shit?
Briefly. You know, the one I had the most interaction with was Ron Wood. At one point he came up to, we all stood together to take a group photograph at the end of the tour, because they do that. And then he looked at Mick Jagger and he said, "Did you hear this guy sing?" And he pointed at me and he said, "Oh my God, he sounds like a cross between," and he named 2 singers. Oh, yeah. He said he sounds like a cross between Rod Stewart and Bernard Fowler. And so Rod Stewart is one of my influences, and Bernard is one of the greatest singers. He's been the background singer for the Rolling Stones forever. Really? And I know him pretty well, actually. So that was probably the best compliment that anyone could have given me. And obviously Ronnie Wood played with Rod Stewart. So, and of course Mick's like, "No, I didn't hear him sing," whatever. So when they went on stage, it was the last show of the tour, and I was sitting behind Keith's amps, and so I could see through. And at one point Ronnie looked over and he gave me like a thumbs up, saying, "Oh, this is kind of cool. I'm having interaction." But actually, he's a sweet guy. One of my best friends and him are very close friends. And so, you know, he's a very sweet guy. And then the other interaction that was kind of funny, I took my dad over there with me, and said anytime, you know, we'd be in the hallway and, you know, you'd pass people, and Charlie Watts would be milling about, and a couple of times he had interaction with my dad, and as a joke, he'd say, "Hey, how's it going, old timer?" You know, because they're pretty much the same age, I guess. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Maybe someday Sister Knock gets to open for you guys.
And yeah, maybe.
The hell.
And you know, recently I actually I was down at I don't want to say where it is because I don't want to give it away, but I was somewhere where Keith Richards has a beach house. Ooh. And we were walking on the beach, and we walked past his house, and he has a pirate hat, a pirate flag.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't want anyone to stalk him, but I didn't say where it was. But yeah, pretty cool.
Can we go knock on his door?
No, I wouldn't do that.
Come on. I'm here knocking on your door.
Anyway.
Is that Julia's bass?
No, this is my poor. This is not the new bass. This is my old bass that I do all my damage on. But now I got a new one.
All right. Well, I think this is good. I took enough of your time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Guys, if Richie Kotzen is on tour next year, we'll definitely be there. So make sure you go to richiekotzen.com, check out all the music. I don't need to tell you what to do. Thanks for being at the Way of the Artist and being such a good friend.
Thank you very much.
Woo!